What's up, ladies and gents, and welcome back to Chris on the Mic. This is my movie recap highlights, where I will briefly discuss my previously reviewed films and label those who I think within the film gave MVP, co-MVP, and six man off the bench performances. Now today we'll be talking about Mad Max Fury Road, which I recently did a review for. You can go check that out, the channel, if you like. And we're going to talk about who really brought their A game within this film. This actually will be a spoiler recap and spoiler highlight. So if you haven't seen the film, go check that out. Then come right back and tell me if it matched up. Tell me if my MVP is similar to your MVP. So let's get to it. Mad Max Fury Road.
You done this before?
Many times.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Okay, let's get it started straight off the bat. Hey, Mad Max Fury Road, the best action film this year and one of the best action films of the past decade. Hands down, I totally believe that is one of the greatest of all time when it comes to the action genre. And I gave it a GOAT review in my previous Mad Max Fury Road review. And now I want to just give out, specific awards to the performances within the film that I felt were like definitely the highlights and definitely insinuated why I believe this film was so good, and definitely who brought their A game. I believe a lot of people brought their A game, but these are the ones who I felt stood out the most. We're going to start with the six man off the bench, and who those who are basketball fans, the six man off the bench is like the person who comes off to relieve some of the star players, but who brings such a spark to the actual game. And I believe the person who brought the spark to this film, Mad Max Fury Road, goes to Nicholas Hoult's character Nux. Nicholas Hoult, I felt like he just took the role that he was given, which could have been a quick throwaway role. It could have been a role that everybody would have forgotten once they walked out of the theater, and everybody was just focused on, Max and Furiosa, who's played by Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron. But no, Nicholas Hoult took that role that he was given and ran with it. He definitely left an impression on me. Those who don't know Nicholas Hoult, this is a guy who also plays Beast in the new X-Men movies, X-Men First Class and X-Men Days of Future Past, which are also great movies. He does a great job in those too. And this is and with what he did with this film and with Nux as a character, and Nux plays what they called a war boy, and basically these war boys are like they're basically bred by the bad guy King and Morton Joe, and then these boys are bred for war. They bred to serve him, and a lot of these boys are born with defections. They're like for him, he need a lot of these guys need blood transfusions, just to stay alive, and they're living day by day, really. And it's just to see that, and to see how he brought such a humanization to this character, who in the beginning is just so devoted to this tyrant King and Morton Joe, who's like the bad guy in the film, and he's still devoted to him, and he doesn't care that this guy's a tyrant, to the point where he barely gives water to his people. He basically he feeds it to them in spurts to make sure that they stay dependent upon him. The result of that is Nicholas Holt's character, and this guy Nux is just looks up to King and Morton Joe as a god, and he praises him, and he wants his approval. And we see Nicholas Hoult do this nice transformation from a character in which Nux was just a henchman, just basically a follower of King and Morton Joe. But slowly but surely, as the movie went on, he actually just slowly but surely insinuated himself as his own character. He brought such a personality to this character. And when you see the trailers, what's the number one line that sticks out your head? Oh, what a lovely day. They used it in the marketing. I highly doubt that line was in the script and they said, ooh, that's a perfect script for marketing. No, I'm pretty sure that the way that Nicholas Hoult just attacked that scene and attacked that dialogue, they was like, oh man, we can actually use this for marketing. So it showed that he was able to lose himself in the situation, and within the world, a post-apocalyptic world that Mad Max Fury Road takes place, one of the highlight scenes, in my opinion, aside from the great scene where, you know, you see him, you know, dive into, you know, the sandstorm after he's chasing Max and Furiosa, you know, and after he's chasing them, he, you know, he says his famous line, "What a lovely day." That was a great scene. But the scene that I felt that said, okay, this guy really brought some dimensions to this character, was definitely the scene where after he feels like he failed King and Morton Joe in trying to capture Furiosa and Max, and, you know, he's just stuck with, you know, he's stuck with Max and Furiosa, and one of the five wives, I believe her name was Capable, came up to him and basically is trying to tell him, like, you know, you do not need to look up to this tyrant. You do not need to prove yourself to him. You just need to prove to yourself that you're worthwhile. You don't need to prove to this guy that you're worthwhile. And you can see it in his face when he's trying to explain to her that, you know, what him and his like fellow war boys, what they believe is that, you know, they live, they die, and they live again. And that's the motto that they follow. And you know, and you can see in his eyes, he truly believes that. And he's just laying down and he feels defeated. He feels like, you know, he's like, I'm gonna die anyway. But if I wanted to die, as he said in the beginning of the film, I want to die historically on the Fury Road. I wanted to die, you know, meaning something. I wanted to die like a soldier. And it's a great way they brought that into the film, you know, and how they said, like, you know, these kids are basically soldiers. You know, they're bred to be soldiers, and they're bred to feel like, hey, the best thing you could do is die in the field of battle. And, you know, he brought such a dynamic, you know, three dimensions to this character that, you know, he became more than just a throwaway, and he helped, like, you know, raise this film up to a higher level, which I think was great. So, you know, sixth man off the bench definitely goes to Nicholas Hoult as Nux. Great character. You'll definitely enjoy him within the film. Now we got the co-MVP and the MVP. Now the co-MVP, and this was difficult for me, but you know what, I had to put it this way. So the co-MVP is going to go to Charlize Theron as Furiosa. Look, I love Tom Hardy as Mad Max in this film. Max is awesome, and he's just like, you know, he's the main character. He's the highlight of the film too. But at the same time, Furiosa carries this film. She has more dialogue than Max. Max rarely talks in this film, you know, and there's not that much dialogue in this film anyway. But Furiosa's like character arc, you know, her arc is basically the strong point. It's the stem of this movie, and you know, Max is basically there to guide her through what she's going through. You know, she's searching for hope, and, you know, you can see within the eyes of Charlize Theron, she brought so much depth within this character, especially through her eyes. You see so many shots where she's like, you know, she has the black tar on her forehead, but her eyes always stand out. She's always looking, like, you know, you see pain, you see frustration, you see anger, you see hope, you see so many different things. And Charlize Theron clearly had to, like, you know, bring not only a physicality but a strong emotional pull just to pull that type of character off. Furiosa was definitely the character that I felt when I left the theater that made me say, like, wow, I mean, I love Max. You know, I've been watching Mad Max since I've been growing up, but I want to see a Furiosa film now. And you have to do a killer job for a person to, I don't care anybody to say, they should definitely do a spin-off of her character. And, you know, she was, you know, rumor had it that, you know, the director George Miller wanted to call the film originally Mad Max Furiosa. But, you know, I'm not sure how much of those are 100% true, but I could totally understand because this is her movie, you know. And she carries it so well, you know. I mean, she brought the physicality for a woman who was, you know, she's playing a woman who has one arm, you know, the other arm is basically amputated and it has a mechanical piece to it, you know. And she has so much strength that she's so badass, you know. She whips Max's ass in the beginning of the film, you know, and then eventually they join together. And when she finds out she can't get to the green place where she was trying to take the five wives to, just to get away from this tyrant, King of Morton Joe, who's basically using women as property just to, you know, breed soldiers, you know, and to produce milk. You know, women have no true place, you know, within King of Morton Joe's society, only just to be used to breed more men, you know. And it's unfortunate, you know, and she just tries to escape to go back to her home where she was at, where she was taken from as a child. And then, you know, as we get to the movie, you know, she and Max are kind of forced into a situation where they have to work together so they can get away from King of Morton Joe and his army. And then you find out that, you know, this green place that she was promising the five wives to take them to doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it's a post-apocalyptic world, and that was her we felt that was her last sense of hope. She was like, look, this is the only place I could feel like I could get away from. And you saw it in the way she talked about it. You saw it in her eyes. And then that beautiful scene, the highlight scene that she's going to get is the scene that you see a little bit in the trailers where she finds out that there's only a few people left from her homeland. And they tell her, look, it's gone. You know, everything that you had, everything we had, it all dried up. You know, there's nothing but desert. And you know what? She kneels down in the sand, distraught, and she screams, and that's it. You know, she blocks out everything, and you can tell it was just a scream of pain, of sadness, of like, you know, hopelessness, and she lost it all. And you know, at that moment, you know, you felt for her. You know, it's a scream that could be felt through the screen and within the theater, through the speakers. And you know what? You're like, wow. You know, Charlize Theron brought her A game. You know, I mean, I was close to putting her as MVP, you know, just because she did so well. You know, she really brought so many dimensions to this character. Her relationship with Max, you know, was a perfect relationship. You know, even though at the end of the movie you see Max leave after they, you know, defeat King of Morton Joe and then take over the actual territory that King of Morton Joe was holding hostage, basically. You know, after they killed him, I was hoping, man, maybe Max should stay. You know, I was forgetting. I was like, you know what? That's not Max's character. He's a guy. He's a drifter. He's gonna go along. But I do hope if George Miller does move forward with more films, that they do bump into each other again, because the dynamic between Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron were great. Even though I heard there were kind of some issues on the set, but trust me, if you're filming in the desert for 5 to 6 months, there's gonna be tension between everybody. It's a very tough place to film, you know. But all in all, I felt they did extremely well. And then to label for our MVP, without a shadow of a doubt, I couldn't deny it. MVP goes to my man, 70 years old, still going strong. After he did films like Happy Feet 1, Happy Feet 2, I think he did Babe, the Pig movie. And now, you know what? He came back to the well and he killed it. George Miller, director, MVP of this film. What he did with this film was create an opera, a post-apocalyptic, action-packed, full adrenaline rush opera. Something that you have to have so much vision and you have to have so much dedication to build this, because majority of this was done with practical effects, and it's a lot more expensive to do with practical effects, because you're actually saying, instead of just CGI in the cars, we're going to crash these joints. We're going to do everything we can to make this film feel like it hurts. And this world felt like it hurt. It felt like if you know, once those cars hit, some shrapnel hits you, you felt like you felt that while you was watching the movie. And George Miller did such a great job. You know, he didn't, and you could tell that he purposely didn't want that much dialogue in the movie. He wanted the music, which the score, Junkie XL. Look, I was close to giving him 6 man off the bench, but you know, I think Junkie XL is going to do a lot more great things. I'm pretty sure I'm going to mention his name in future films. But just shout out to Junkie XL for creating one of the best scores of the year so far. The music in this film are just so well done. It helps drive the film, no pun intended. But it helps drive the film so well. Without the music, you know, the film needs the music as much as the music needs the film, and as much as the film and the music need the actors, and so on and so forth. So George Miller created, like I said, once again, he created an opera with this. You know, you could listen to this movie without the little dialogue that he does give you. You could just take that out and just listen to the music and just see the actors and the actresses' facial expressions, and the movie will be just as amazing with and without the dialogue. So that's how great this movie was. And yeah, the movie is, I mean, the plot is pretty simple that he created. You know, you got to get from point A, which was King Joe's territory, to point B, which was the green place that Charlize Theron wanted to go, and then eventually go back to point A and take over King Joe's territory. And you know, after that, you know, it's pretty straightforward. It's not that intricate of a plot, but it wasn't meant to be. Mad Max was about 2 characters who are trying to find hope in this post-apocalyptic wasteland, and George Miller did a perfect job of directing that. He did a perfect job of saying, you know, a movie that he directed over 30 years ago. Mad Max 1, 2, and 3 came out over 30 years ago, guys. So this is a movie that I think he said he spent like about 12 years before he even started filming, just trying to get it together. But you know, this is a movie that, you know, most guys, after they done a movie, and to make a sequel of that movie that they done about 30 years ago, is very difficult to get back into that mode that you felt, but he remodernized it for this day and age. I think this movie's going to last a lot longer within the minds of the audience than even those movies did. And I love the Mel Gibson movies. I love them. They're classics. They're always going to be in my mind. But I think now for this generation, these movies are going to last even longer. And that's just even more appreciation that goes to George Miller. So MVP and the highlight for George Miller is, I will have to say, the last, I mean, all the race scenes and fight scenes during the desert when they were racing and fighting against King of Morton Joe's army were great. But the last race scene when they have to get back to King of Morton Joe's army towards the end, and you know, that scene was just, you know, you see the guy with the guitar, you know, was playing, and like, you know, Mad Max goes up there, and every time he hit the guy with the guitar, the sound that the guitar made worked well with the music that was going on with the film. Everything had a purpose, and the explosions and the people flying off the poles. Also, honorable mention goes out to the stunt coordinators and the people who worked with and the stunt men that were working with this film. You guys are amazing. You deserve respect, and you also deserve an Academy Award. Give them some award, guys. They've earned it in this film, and there are other films too that stunt coordinators, I feel like, don't get the respect that they deserve. But this film, oh man, you could tell George Miller, I think he had nearly a 1,000 stuntmen working on this film. That's what I heard. Maybe I'm over exaggerating there a little, but you know, George Miller clearly had, you know, a vision, and he gave us that. You know, he gave us that vision with the Mad Max Fury Road, and you know, I can't wait to see this film again. You know, so just to recap, you know, 6 Man Off the Bench goes off to Nicholas Hoult as his character is Nux within the film. Co-MVP goes to Charlize Theron as Furiosa within this film. And MVP goes to George Miller, 70 years old, still going strong. Age is nothing but a number. As long as you have a vision, as long as you have your heart to it, you could definitely knock out any movie that you want, and you could definitely bring in something new. He is, once again, reimagined and reshaped the action genre with this movie. I mean, look, I'm not trying to be overhyping this movie, but look, just believe the hype. You know, in this sense, please believe the hype. This movie is great, and I really hope that, you know, even though it's rated R, I really hope more people go out and get to see it. I hope it doesn't fall out of the top 5 within the box office. It might never even get to number 1, but I hope it stays in the top 5 and gets the money it deserves, so we can eventually see more of these films. You know, shout out to everybody who worked with this film, and I hope we get to see a lot more films that have this type of imagination to it, this type of originality. You know, I loved it, you know. So once again, this is Chris on the mic with the movie highlight recaps. You know, stay in tune for more recaps and more reviews coming up soon. There's a lot more movies and a lot more situations within Hollywood that I'm going to definitely talk about. So once again, Chris on the mic signing out, and don't forget that your mic belongs to you too. Speak your voice. Everybody deserves to be heard. All right, peace out. 1.